Hey YouTube, it is your girl Latanya Monique coming to you with the video that I talked about last time, and that is for those of you who are maybe embarking on an internship. It's intern season. It's kind of like what we say in December. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There's fresh college kids out trying to get a jump start on their life and grow their careers, and I want to give you advice to make sure you don't fall into certain traps that can get you off course. So I'm going to talk about professionalism in the workplace. So if you're starting off in your internship, you may have questions on what is and what isn't appropriate. Hey, I get it. The world is very dynamic right now, and it's kind of hard to gauge what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Here's the other thing, intern folks out there. We've got a lot of generations in the workplace right now. And so what may be okay for you may not be okay to other people in the office or in the workplace, other colleagues. It may be something that your boss has a different opinion about, or maybe even in some cases your colleagues. So I'm going to recommend that you play it safe, all right, and avoid these things while you are working in your internship. First of all, many internship programs have social hours where you get to hang out and have fun with your fellow interns and probably the person, maybe like the HR person. It was me back in the day, coordinating the interns to go to, we did like arcades and laser tag. It was so fun. And we hung out, ate, drank, and just really blew off some steam. But here's what you want to make sure that you don't do. Do not overindulge in alcohol, okay? Many company functions may have alcohol, and depending on your age, you may or may not be able to drink, right? Because you do need to make sure that you are of legal age to drink. But in whatever the case is, in terms of if you do indulge, look, even if you're not an intern, don't overindulge in an alcoholic beverage to where you're intoxicated and you're not in your right mind. That is very, very important. Candidly, and I'm going to get off course here, I've seen this happen not just with interns, but with grown folks who aren't really thinking clearly and they overdo it, and then it's the talk of the office or even in HR the next morning. So be careful with that and make sure whatever you do that you're, of course, obeying the law in that area, right? We do have legal drinking age in this country, people. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is, even if you have a good rapport with senior leadership and whatnot, is to overall maintain respect and professionalism. Meaning, you may work for one of those companies where you're really cool with your director or your vice president. I've been in organizations where maybe the VP or the SVP will, take an internship who golfs out on the golf course. Make sure that you always maintain that respect and dignity for that person who is your superior, right? It's very important that you don't get too comfortable, that you don't get too jokey, too chummy with that person, because at the end of the day, you're still their subordinate, even if you're on the golf course or even if you're, hanging out at an intern event. Make sure that you always maintain that professional rapport with that person of authority. It's very important. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is work when you're supposed to be working. It sounds pretty basic, but I've absolutely had to discipline people, interns, because maybe there was a moment, especially during COVID, people were working from home and they were supposed to be working and they just weren't. Or even people were in the office and the intern decided to take really, really, really long lunches and not let people know where they were at. And there may be some times when you go out and you run an errand or something, or you go out for lunch and you take a little bit longer, but you shouldn't be gone, people, for like 3 hours in the middle of the day and nobody knows where you're at. That's how you get fired. So be careful with that, and make sure that you're accountable for your time and that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is working during the workday. Okay, the other thing, and I've talked about this before, is maintaining professional dress and appearance. And there's different opinions about this. Again, I believe I said this in another video. If you're unsure about the dress code, maybe you're kind of new there, look at the videos from the company. If you're in a position where you can be at a company that has a lot of social media or pictures where it shows employees maybe how they dress for in the office and whatnot, or maybe if you're there and you kind of notice how people are dressing, make sure that you are kind of following suit. But my personal recommendation, and this is absolutely inside scoop, dress for the job that you want, not for the one that you're in right now. So if you were like my kid or my kid brother or baby cousin or a nephew or a niece or someone, people who call me and ask for intern advice, I would say, honey, dress and take it up a notch. So if people are wearing jeans and t-shirts, you wear jeans and a polo shirt. You want to do something to differentiate yourself from your peers, especially if you want a job in that company. And many companies will make offers to interns at the end of the internship season, or maybe sometimes even during. So make sure that you're dressing to impress and that you conduct yourselves with the utmost professionalism. It's very, very important. All right, this was an easy one. It was kind of short, sweet, and to the point. I hope this was helpful for those of you who are maybe in an internship right now and you've got some questions about just how to navigate. Hey, look, it's kind of scary to go from taking college courses and hanging out in the student union to putting on like your professional clothes and going into an office space for the first time. It's a big transition, and let me help you. If you have questions and maybe I didn't hit on something that you're curious about, don't be afraid to put that in the comments, and I'll be checking those and I will be sure to respond. Again, take advantage of all of my years of experience. And until we meet again, go forth and be awesome. Bye.